I woke up from the coma and heard my daughter-in-law say, "As soon as the old hag dies, she goes straight to a nursing home." I pretended to remain unconscious. The next day, they came to the hospital to get me, but I was already far away with my husband, my passport, and the letter that left them completely frozen. There are moments in life where everything changes in a second, where the person you thought you were disappears and someone completely different is born. For me, that moment came in the darkness of a hospital room with the monotonous sound of machines and the smell of disinfectant sticking to my skin. My name is Catherine. I am 68 years old, and for 12 days I was trapped in a coma that, according to the doctors, could have killed me. A massive stroke left me lying on the floor of my own kitchen, surrounded by the Sunday dinner I was cooking. Robert, my only son, found me hours later, or so they told me when I finally woke up. But waking up was not like in the movies. I did not open my eyes suddenly, nor did I sit up in bed asking for water. It was slow, confusing, like swimming to the surface from the bottom of a dark lake. First, I heard distant voices. Then I felt the weight of my own body. And finally, with an effort that seemed superhuman, I managed to open my eyelids just enough to see the light from the hallway filtering under the door. I was alone in the room. Or so I thought. Then I heard her. The voice of Vanessa, my daughter-in-law, whispering urgently on the phone. She was standing by the window, with her back to me, with that platinum blonde dyed hair that always seemed too artificial to me. She was wearing a wine-colored silk blouse that I myself gave her for her last birthday. "No, honey, calm down," she said with that sweet voice she used when she wanted something. "The doctor said it could be any day now. It has been 12 days already. Her brain is very damaged." My heart, which had barely begun to beat, normally accelerated. I tried to move to say something, but my body did not respond. It was like being locked inside myself. "Listen," Vanessa continued, and her voice lost all sweetness. It became cold, calculating, like the edge of a knife. "As soon as the old lady dies, we sell the house. It is $800,000. Robert, $800,000. We can pay all the debts, buy that condo in Miami we saw, and still have enough left over for the business you want to start." Every word was a stab in the back. "And if she does not die?" asked the voice of my son on the other end. I barely recognized it. It sounded tired, resigned. "And if she wakes up?" Vanessa let out a brief, humorless laugh. "Well, then we apply Plan B, my love. I already spoke with that lawyer your cousin recommended. If she is left with brain damage, we declare her incompetent and we take control of her assets anyway. And if by some miracle she wakes up fine." She paused a pause that froze my blood. "Well, you know. There are cheap nursing homes on the outskirts of the city. For $1,500 a month, they will keep her and we keep the house anyway. After all, she already lived what she had to live." The heart monitor began to beat faster. Vanessa turned around, startled, but I had already closed my eyes completely. I heard her heels approaching the bed. I felt her breath smelling of mint gum near my face. "Mrs. Catherine," she whispered, "can you hear me?" I did not move. I did not breathe deeper. I turned into stone. After what seemed like an eternity, I heard her walk away and leave the room. The door closed with a soft click, and there in that self-imposed darkness with my eyelids tight and my heart breaking into pieces, I made the most important decision of my life. I was not going to wake up. Not yet. First, I was going to listen to observe to understand exactly what kind of monsters I had raised. Because if I had learned anything in my 68 years, it was this. Never underestimate a woman who has more to lose than her own life, and I had already lost everything in that moment. The only thing I had left was my dignity, and that I swear to you, no one was going to take away from me. If this story has hooked you from the first second subscribe to this channel to keep listening to real confessions that will give you goosebumps. Like this video if you have ever felt betrayed by your own blood, because what comes next, you will never forget. While I remained motionless in that hospital bed, pretending to be in a coma, my mind began to go over every moment that had brought me there, every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every dollar I spent thinking I was building a future for my son. Robert was born when I was barely 28 years old. His father, Henry, abandoned us 6 months later. He disappeared one morning, taking the $1,500 we had saved and leaving me a note on the kitchen table. I am not ready to be a father. Forgive me just like that. Just that cruel. I was left alone in a small attic room in a rough neighborhood with a baby crying from hunger and a future that looked like a dead-end street. But I did not give up, never. I started selling breakfast sandwiches in the mornings. I would get up at 4 in the morning with Robert tied to my back in a wool shawl my mother gave me before she died. I prepared 50 sandwiches with chicken, 50 with beef, 30 with cheese. I sold them on Main Street before dawn when the workers were running to the subway. I earned between $50 and $80 a day. It was not much, but it was enough. In the afternoons, I cleaned houses, 3 houses from Monday to Friday. Swollen knees, hands cracked from bleach, back creaking every time I stood up. But every time Robert hugged me and said, "I love you, Mommy," every blow of pain was worth it. I enrolled him in the local public elementary school, then in high school. He was always a good student, diligent, responsible. All the teachers congratulated me. "Mrs. Catherine, your son has a future," they told me, and I filled with pride. When Robert turned 18 and got into the state university to study business administration, I cried with happiness. We were poor, yes, but my son was going to be a professional. He was going to have what I never had. During those 4 years, I worked like never before. I no longer just sold sandwiches and cleaned houses. I also ironed other people's clothes on weekends. Robert needed books, transportation, food, and I gave him everything. Everything. I never went out with anyone. I never bought myself new clothes. I never went to the movies or a fair. My entire life revolved around my son. He was my project, my reason for existing. When he graduated, I managed to gather $40,000. I was 40 years old then, and those $40,000 represented 8 years of savings. 8 years of saving every coin, denying myself every pleasure, eating beans and tortillas so my money would grow. I gave it all to him for the down payment on his first apartment, a small but decent place in the city. "Mom, I promise I will pay you back every dollar," he swore with tears in his eyes. "You will see that I am going to succeed, and I will give you everything you deserve." He never paid me back a single cent, but I did not care. Seeing him established with a job as a sales manager at a cell phone company was enough. 3 years later, he met Vanessa at an office party. She was pretty, I cannot deny that. Tall, thin, with that type of beauty that seems taken from magazines. She worked as a receptionist at a dental office and talked about her dreams of owning her own spa. She came from a family from the wrong side of the tracks that, as I learned later, had kicked her out of the house for problems that were never clear to me. From the first day I met her, something in my stomach twisted. It was not her appearance, it was her look, cold, calculating, as if she were evaluating how much everything in my house was worth while drinking coffee in my living room. "Mrs. Catherine," she told me with a smile that did not reach her eyes, "what a beautiful house you have. And this antique bookcase is lovely. Is it mahogany?" "It was my mother's," I replied with pride. "It is over 60 years old. It must be worth a fortune," she commented, running her fingers over the wood. "Robert asked me to accept her. Mom, she is different. She makes me happy. Give me a chance to be happy." And I, like the fool I was, said yes. They got married 6 months later in a small ceremony that I paid for. $15,000 between the venue, the food, her dress, and his suit. Vanessa wanted an elegant wedding, and Robert had no savings because, as he confessed to me ashamed, he had had some unforeseen expenses with credit cards. "Do not worry, son," I told him, hugging him. "That is what mothers are for." A year after the marriage, Robert lost his job. The company closed operations in the country. He fell into a terrible depression. Vanessa began to pressure him, to scold him, to threaten to leave him if he did not find work soon. "Mom," he called me one night crying, "can we stay with you for a while? Only while I find something new. I swear it will be temporary." My house was modest but comfortable. 2 floors in a nice quiet suburb that I had bought 15 years ago with a small inheritance left to me by an aunt. It had 3 bedrooms, a patio with blooming flowers, and a dining room where the whole family fit. "Of course, my love," I told him without thinking. "This is your house." That time turned into 3 years in which Vanessa took over my home. She changed the curtains without asking me, moved my furniture, put her things in my closet because she needed more space, invited her friends, and left everything messy, and I cleaned up after them without saying anything. Robert got a job after 8 months, but they never talked about leaving, and I never dared to ask them to. I was afraid of losing my son, afraid of being left alone in that big house. Then 2 years ago, something wonderful happened. I met Edward. But that is a story that still hurts me to remember, because when I finally found happiness, my own family forced me to destroy it. For 5 more days, I remained in that bed pretending to be unconscious. 5 days that felt eternal to me, where every second was a battle against my own body that wanted to scream, cry, get up and confront those 2 vipers I called family. But I kept quiet, motionless, learning. On the 2nd day, Vanessa arrived early around 9 in the morning when the hospital was just beginning its daily routine. I heard her heels clicking in the hallway before she entered. This time, she did not come alone. "Look, Danielle, I am serious," she was saying to someone. "Come enter. She is not going to find out anything." Another woman entered with her by the sound of her voice, young perhaps, Vanessa's age, about 30-something. "Are you sure I feel bad doing this?" said this Danielle. "Oh, please, the old lady does not even know. Look at her, she is practically dead." Those words, practically dead, pronounced with as much coldness as someone talking about the weather. I felt the bed move. Vanessa was rummaging through the nightstand next to my head. I heard the sound of drawers opening. See, she had her wallet here when they brought her in. Good thing Robert had the intelligence to bring it home. The sound of a bag being opened. "Look, here are the house keys. And this is gold. My chain. The chain with the gold medallion that my mother gave me when I turned 15. The only jewelry of real value I had." "Vanessa, you cannot take that from her," Danielle protested weakly. "Why not? When she dies, it will be mine anyway." "I am just getting ahead. Besides, I need to pawn it. We have to pay the credit card or they are going to sue us. We already owe $25,000. $25,000 in credit cards." I felt rage burning inside me, but I kept my face impassive. I did not even move an eyelid. "And look," Vanessa continued now with enthusiasm, "I am going to show you the house by video call. I already took photos of everything for when we put it up for sale. I heard the sound of a phone being handled. A video call connecting. Are you there already? Perfect. Look, this is the hospital. Here is the lady all stiff. Robert says if she survives, she is going to end up as a vegetable anyway, so it does not matter. My own son. Robert the boy, I carried on my back while selling sandwiches. The young man I hugged crying when he graduated. That same son was waiting for me to die or end up invalid to rob me of everything." "Well, enough of this," said Vanessa. "Now, yes, come on. Let us go to the house. Anyway, there is nothing to do here. The nurses already know I do not come in the afternoons because I have to work." Lies. Vanessa had stopped working a year and a half ago. She said she was very stressed and needed time to find herself. My pension of $1,200 a month helped maintain the house while she found herself. They left, and I stayed there with my heart beating so fast I feared the machines would betray my conscious state. But the worst came that same night. Around 11, when the hospital was silent, and only the distant murmur of the nurses in their station could be heard, Robert entered my room alone. My son. My only son. He sat in the chair next to my bed. I heard his heavy, tired breathing. For a moment I thought maybe he was coming to say goodbye, to tell me he loved me, to ask for forgiveness for everything. How naive I was. He took out his cell phone. He dialed a number. "Mr. Garrison, good evening. Excuse the time. Yes, this is Robert Sources, the son of Catherine Sources. Exactly the lady with the stroke. Look, I need to ask you some urgent questions." A long pause while he listened. How much time has to pass for me to be able to declare my mom legally incompetent if she wakes up with brain damage? I see. And if she wakes up fine, is there any way to? Another pause. Longer. I felt like I was drowning. I understand. Yes, she has a house in her name valued at approximately $800,000 according to the last tax assessment. No, she does not have a will, at least not that I know of. Exactly, I am an only child. And how much would your services cost me to handle all this? Silence. Then a sigh. Perfect $15,000 plus tax, no problem. I can advance it to you as soon as I sell the property. Yes, I understand that technically it is still hers, but you understand the situation. The lady is already 68 years old. Her pension is a misery, barely $1,200. It makes no sense to maintain her if she is left with brain damage. She would be more of a burden than anything else. A burden. That word echoed in my head like a gunshot. To my son, I was a burden, a load, an obstacle between him and his inheritance. Look, Mr. Garrison continued. Robert, and his voice became harder, colder. I will be honest with you. My wife and I have serious debts. We owe $25,000 on cards, plus $10,000 for a personal loan. If my mom wakes up and regains control of her things, we will never get out of this hole. She was too controlling with her money. She never really wanted to help us. Lie after lie after lie. So we agree on this. You start preparing the papers. If within a week she does not wake up or wakes up bad, we proceed with legal incapacity. And if she wakes up fine well, we will find another solution. There are cheap asylums where we can put her. For $1,500 a month they keep her, and we take control of the house. He hung up. He sat there a few minutes more in silence. Then I heard something I will never forget. I heard him cry. But he was not crying for me. He was crying for himself, for his situation, for his debts. I am sorry, Mom, he whispered finally. But I cannot take it any more. Vanessa is right. You lived enough. Now it is our turn. He got up. I felt his lips graze my forehead in a cold, mechanical kiss, and he left. That night, when I was left completely alone, I opened my eyes in the dark. Tears ran down my cheeks, soaking the pillow. I made no noise. I did not move except to breathe. But in that moment, in that dark room that smelled of sickness and betrayal, a new Catherine was born. One that no longer had anything to lose. One that was going to fight. On the third day of my performance, I met Lisa. She was a young nurse, about 32 years old, with her hair tied back in a high ponytail and honey-colored eyes that seemed to see beyond the obvious. She wore the hospital's mint green uniform and worn white sneakers that squeaked slightly against the floor. The first time she entered my room was during the afternoon shift. I was with my eyes closed as always, controlling my breathing, maintaining the perfect rhythm of someone in a coma. I had perfected the art of seeming absent. I felt her hands checking the IV, adjusting the sheets. But then she did something different. She stopped by my bed and stood there in silence for several seconds. How strange, she muttered to herself. She checked the vital signs monitor. I heard the sound of pages being turned, probably my file. Her vital signs improve when she is alone, she said in a low voice as if thinking out loud. But when her family arrives, her pressure goes up. Her heart rate accelerates as if... She fell silent abruptly. I felt her gaze fixed on me as if she were listening to them, she whispered. My heart skipped a beat, but I forced myself to remain calm. I did not move, not a muscle. Lisa left the room without saying more, but I knew she had seen something, and I was afraid. During the following hours, I tried to convince myself that it had been my imagination, that that nurse did not suspect anything, that everything was still going according to my plan. But that same night, around 11:30, when the hospital was plunged into that particular silence of the early morning, I heard the door open very carefully. Soft steps, a presence approaching my bed. Then I felt a warm hand take mine, and a soft voice, barely a whisper, that said, "Ma'am, if you are listening to me, if you are awake, even if you pretend not to be, move your index finger. Just a little bit. No one else is looking, only me. And I swear on my mother that I am not going to say anything that puts you in danger." The world stopped. My brain screamed not to do it, that it was a trap, that they were going to discover me. But something in that woman's voice, something in her genuine tone, made me trust. I moved my index finger, barely a millimeter. I felt Lisa hold her breath. "My God," she whispered. "I knew it. I knew it." She squeezed my hand gently. "Ma'am, I do not know what is happening, but I have been working here for 10 years, and I have seen many things. Your vital signs do not lie. You are conscious." And something tells me you have your reasons for pretending. I opened my eyes slowly. It was the first time in 3 days that I looked directly at someone. Lisa was leaning over me with eyes shining with emotion and something else. Compassion. "Help," I whispered with a hoarse voice. "Please." Lisa looked toward the door, verifying that no one was coming, and then looked back at me. "What do you need? Are you in danger?" Tears began to run down my face. I could not hold them back anymore. "My family," I said with a broken voice. "They are waiting for me to die. They want to steal everything from me. My son, my own son." I could not continue. The sobs choked me. Lisa hugged me, just like that. A stranger who became my salvation in that moment. She let me cry on her shoulder while stroking my hair as a daughter would. "Calm down, ma'am. Breathe. You are safe. I am going to help you." Why, I asked her when I managed to calm down a little. "Why would you help me? You do not even know me." Lisa sat on the edge of my bed and looked at me with a deep sadness in her eyes. Because 5 years ago, my grandmother went through something similar. She had a heart attack, and while she was in this same hospital, her youngest son, my Uncle Arnold, tried to make her sign some papers to keep her house. They told her they were medical authorizations. She signed because she trusted him. She wiped away a tear. When she left the hospital, she had nothing left. My uncle had sold the house, had taken her savings of $30,000, and left her living in a small attic room he rented for her out of pity. My grandmother died 2 years later. Of sadness more than anything else. I never forgave myself for not being there to protect her. She took my hand again. "I am not going to allow the same thing to happen to you. Tell me what you need and I will help you. But you have to trust me." And that was how Lisa became my accomplice, my guardian angel. During the next 2 days, she became my eyes and ears. She got me my cell phone when Vanessa left it forgotten at home. She brought me the charger hidden in her purse. She helped me make quick calls when no one else was around keeping watch at the door. It was Lisa who told me what she had heard in the hallway. Vanessa talking to a friend about the furniture in my house. "The antique mahogany bookcase can be sold for $12,000 easy. There is an antique dealer downtown who pays well. And my mother-in-law's fine china sets. Those are collectibles. Each piece is worth like $300, and there are at least 30 pieces. It was Lisa who intercepted a phone conversation of Robert. "Yes, Mr. Garrison, I already spoke with the appraiser. The house can be sold for $780,000 if we sell it fast. It is a bargain because it is well located in the suburbs. Normally it would be worth more, but we need liquidity urgently." And it was Lisa who gave me the final push I needed. "Mrs. Catherine," she told me one night when she was helping me exercise my legs so I would regain strength, "you do not owe them anything, absolutely nothing. I know he is your son, and it hurts, but a son who plans this is not a son. He is a stranger with your blood." "But is he the only thing I have?" I whispered with a broken voice. "No," she replied firmly. "You have yourself, your dignity, your life. And those 68 years you lived with effort and sacrifice that is yours, and no one can take it away from you, not even him." That night I took the most difficult decision of my life. "Lisa," I told her, "I need you to help me with something else, something big." She looked at me with determination. "Tell me what you need. I need to get out of here without anyone knowing, and I need to do it soon before it is too late." Lisa nodded slowly. "Do you have somewhere to go? Do you have someone who can help you?" I closed my eyes. An image came to my mind. A face I had tried to forget for the last 2 years. A man with light brown eyes and a sincere smile who had made me feel alive again. "Yes," I whispered. "I think so." "Then tell me his name," said Lisa, taking out her cell phone, "and I will dial him." I took a deep breath. It was now or never. Edward Vance. His number must be in my cell phone in favorite contacts. Lisa looked for the name and found it. She passed me the phone with trembling hands. I dialed. 3 rings. 4. I thought he was not going to answer. Then I heard his voice. "Hello." And after 2 years of forced silence, 2 years of missing him every night, 2 years of regretting having chosen my son's approval over my own happiness, I said, "Edward, it is me. It is Catherine, and I need you." Edward Vance entered my life exactly 2 years and 4 months ago, in a place so common it seemed impossible that something extraordinary would begin there, the downtown farmers market, a Saturday morning. I was buying tomatoes when we crashed, literally. He was coming distracted looking at his shopping list, and I was in a hurry trying to reach the freshest avocados. My bag fell, the tomatoes rolled on the floor, and we both bent down at the same time to pick them up. Our hands touched over the same tomato. "Sorry, ma'am," he said with a smile that lit up his whole face. "I am walking like a headless chicken looking everywhere except where I walk." I laughed. It had been so long since I laughed like that with gusto. Do not worry, I am not paying attention either. I am running like a soul chased by the devil. We got up at the same time. He was 71 years old then, but he looked strong, vital. White hair perfectly combed back, light brown eyes that shone with intelligence, and large worker hands. He wore a gray wool sweater and clean jeans. He looked good, well cared for. "May I invite you for a coffee?" he asked suddenly, as an apology for almost knocking you down. I should have said no. I should have invented an excuse and gone my way. But something in his eyes, something in his sincere smile made me accept. We ended up at the corner cafe with 2 cups of coffee and a plate of pastries, which he insisted on paying for. And we talked. God, how we talked. He told me he had been a widower for 3 years, that his wife Beatrice had died of cancer after 45 years of marriage, that he had 2 daughters who lived in another state with their own families and who visited him every 2 or 3 months, that he had been a high school teacher all his life teaching history and math, that now he lived on his pension of $2,500 a month and some savings he had kept with care. "I have a little cottage in the countryside," he told me with eyes shining with emotion. "I bought it 15 years ago when I was still working. It is small, but it has a beautiful garden where Beatrice planted purple flowers. I have not gone since she died. I'm afraid to go alone and feel her absence in every corner." I told him my story. Not all of it, not that first time. But I did tell him about Robert, how I had raised him alone, about my work selling breakfast sandwiches, about the house I had bought with so much effort. "You are a very strong woman," he told me, taking my hand across the table. "It shows in your eyes and the way you talk about your life. Not many people can say they built something from nothing." That coffee turned into 2, then into a walk through the market, then into a goodbye, with the promise to see each other the following week. And that is how it all started. For 6 months, Edward and I saw each other every Saturday. We went to the market, walked through the park, visited small museums, ate lunch at street stalls. He gave me flowers he bought at the subway, always sunflowers, because once I told him I liked them. I prepared pastries and took them to him in a container because he confessed to me that he missed homemade food. There was nothing urgent in our relationship. There was no rush. It was a friendship that was turning into something deeper without us realizing it. One day, after 8 months of seeing each other, he kissed me. It was under a blossoming tree in the historic district, with purple petals falling on us like confetti, and in that kiss, I felt something I thought I had lost forever. Hope. "Catherine," he told me that afternoon, with a voice trembling with emotion, "I know we are both older. I know life has already given us its blows, but I want to be with you, not as friends. I want to wake up every morning knowing I can call you, see you, hug you. I want you to be my partner." I cried with happiness. At 66 years old, I thought romantic love was something that no longer touched me. And there was this wonderful man asking me to build something together. Yes, I replied, yes, I want to be with you. That night I told Robert, I thought he would be happy for me. I thought he would understand that his mother also had the right to be happy. I was completely wrong. A boyfriend said Robert with a tone I had never heard from him. Mockery mixed with contempt. "Mom, please, you are already 66 years old. Do you not think you are a little old for that nonsense? It is not nonsense, son. Edward is a good man. He is educated, hardworking, has his own house, his own income." "Oh, sure," Vanessa interrupted from the armchair without even looking up from her cell phone. "Surely he wants your house, Catherine. That is how all lonely old men are. They look for a widow with properties so they do not die in misery." "That is not true," I replied, feeling the rage rise in my throat. Edward has his own pension, his own house in the countryside. A house in the countryside, Robert mocked. How impressive. Surely it is a mud hut. Mom, use your head. That man is playing you. You do not know him. And we do not want to know him, cut Vanessa. Look, Catherine, be realistic. What are people going to think? Mrs. Catherine, 66 years old, walking around with an old man all over the neighborhood. It is ridiculous. It is embarrassing. I do not care what people think. Well, you should care, said Robert, getting up from the armchair. His voice had turned cold, threatening, because those people know us too, and I am not going to allow you to be making a fool of yourself with some opportunistic old man while you live under this roof. It is my roof, I replied with a trembling voice. This is my house. The silence that followed was terrifying. You know what Mom said, Robert, after a moment that seemed eternal? You are right, it is your house, and if you want to fill it with lecherous old men, go ahead. But then we are leaving, and do not call me asking for help when that old man leaves you with nothing because I warned you. They went to their rooms, slamming the door. Vanessa gave me a look of satisfaction before following him. That night, I cried until I fell asleep, and the next day, when Edward called to invite me to breakfast, I told him I could not see him anymore. Why, Catherine, did I do something wrong? No, Edward, you did nothing wrong, thing. But my family, my son does not accept our relationship, and I cannot lose him. He is the only thing I have. You have me, he said with a broken voice. I am sorry, I whispered. I am very sorry. And I hung up. For 2 years I convinced myself that I had done the right thing, that a mother must sacrifice for her children, that romantic love at my age was a luxury I could not afford. But now, lying in that hospital bed with the phone at my trembling ear and Edward's voice on the other side, I understood the magnitude of my mistake. Catherine, is it really you? My God, I thought that they told me you were in a coma. Are you okay? Where are you? I am at the General Hospital, Edward, and I need your help. Please, I need to get out of here before it is too late. I am coming there right now. No, I interrupted him. You cannot just come like that. Robert and Vanessa cannot know I am conscious. They are waiting for me to die to keep my house, with everything. Silence on the other end. Then a deep sigh. Tell me what you need, my love. Anything. And there, with Lisa holding my hand and Edward listening attentively on the phone, we began to plan my escape, my second chance, my silent revenge. The next 2 days were the most intense of my life. While I remained motionless in that bed pretending to be in a coma, Edward, Lisa, and I coordinated every detail of my escape as if we were spies in a movie. But before being able to leave, I needed to know exactly what they were planning. I needed proof. I needed to understand the magnitude of the betrayal to be able to protect myself legally. On the 4th day, Vanessa arrived earlier than usual. It was barely 8 in the morning. She came accompanied by a man I did not know. By his way of speaking polite but calculating, I knew immediately he was the lawyer. Mr. Garrison, come in, said Vanessa, with that sugary voice she used when she wanted to impress. Look, there she is, 12 days like this without moving. The doctors say that even if she wakes up, she will probably be left with severe brain damage. Did the doctors tell you that? Specifically asked the lawyer. Well, not with those exact words, but it is understood. A 68-year-old woman with such a strong stroke, you know how these things are. I heard the sound of papers being handled, a chair being pulled closer to my bed. Mrs. Sources, I understand the urgency, but I need to be clear with you and your husband. If Mrs. Catherine wakes up with her faculties intact, there is no legal way to take control of her properties without her consent. But if she wakes up with brain damage, then yes, asked Vanessa, with an almost hopeful tone that turned my stomach. In that case, your husband, as an only child, could request a declaration of incompetence. The process takes between 3 and 6 months and requires constant medical evaluations. I can expedite it, but I cannot invent a diagnosis that does not exist. And how much would all that cost? My fees would be $15,000 plus tax. That includes all legal procedures, court appearances, and the necessary documentation for your husband to take control of the house and bank accounts. $15,000. To steal my life. Perfect, said Vanessa without hesitating. My husband is going to deposit in advance for you. Right, honey. Only then did I realize that Robert was also there. He had not said a single word. My son, my only son, was standing there in silence, allowing all this to happen. Robert Wright asked the lawyer, "I need you to sign these papers. They are authorizations for me to act on your behalf when the time comes." "And if my mom wakes up fine?" asked Robert with a voice so low I barely heard it. "And if she recovers completely?" The silence that followed was long, uncomfortable. Then my son replied the lawyer with a tone that froze the blood. "You will have to convince her to give you power of attorney voluntarily." Or he paused. "We can explore other options. There are geriatric residences where, for reasons of patient safety, relatives can take certain administrative decisions. Once she is admitted, it would be simpler to manage her properties." "Are you talking about putting her in a home against her will?" asked Robert. "I did not say that," replied the lawyer quickly. "I am just mentioning options other clients have explored. But for that, you would need 2 doctors to certify that she represents a danger to herself. And those opinions, well, they can be facilitated with the right contacts." Vanessa let out a nervous giggle. "God, counselor, it sounds like we are planning something bad. We just want to protect the family assets." "Of course, Mrs. Sources, and that is exactly what we will do, but I need you both to understand that this process must be handled with much discretion. If anyone, a distant relative or nosy neighbor, came to report something irregular, the whole process would get enormously complicated." "There is no one else," said Robert. "My mom has no living siblings. Her parents died years ago, and she has no close friends. She was always very lonely." Lie. "I had friends from the market, neighbors with whom I drank coffee, a group of ladies with whom I went to church on Sundays. But Robert and Vanessa had taken it upon themselves to distance me little by little from all of them during these last 3 years." "Perfect," said the lawyer. "Then there will be no problems. Now let me explain to you about the sale of the property. Once we have legal control, we can put it on the market immediately. I have a client who is looking for exactly that type of house in the suburbs. He is willing to pay $780,000 in cash without intermediaries closing the operation in less than a month." "780," asked Vanessa. "Does not the house cost like $900,000? "Technically, yes, according to the tax appraisal. But in a quick sale, without the owner present to negotiate, the normal thing is to lose between 10 and 15% of the value. Besides, my client would pay in cash. That is worth gold in these times." "And of those $780,000, how much would you keep?" asked Robert, with a tone of mistrust. "My standard commission is 8%. That would be $62,400. Plus the $15,000 for legal procedures we are talking about, you receiving approximately $700,000 clean. $700,000. My house, my heritage. The result of 40 years of work, of sleepless nights, of cracked hands and sore knees, all reduced to a figure that they were already dividing mentally. And the furniture," added Vanessa. "The house has antique furniture of much value, a mahogany bookcase that is worth like $12,000, fine china sets for collectors." "You can sell that on your own," interrupted the lawyer. "I handle only the property, but I recommend you do it fast before the neighbors start asking questions about where Mrs. Catherine is." It was at that moment when Lisa entered the room. Her entrance was perfectly synchronized as we had planned. She was carrying a tray with medicines. "Excuse me," she said with a professional voice. "I need to check the patient and change the IV. Could you wait outside a few minutes?" Sure, said Vanessa, getting up. "Anyway, we are done here. Counselor, we will wait for you in the coffee shop downstairs to sign the papers." The 3 left. As soon as the door closed, I opened my eyes. Lisa ran towards me. "Did you record it all?" I whispered. She took her cell phone out of her uniform pocket. On the screen, the recording counter was still running. Almost 20 minutes of audio. Everything, she replied with a triumphant smile. Every word. "God bless you, Lisa," I said with tears in my eyes. She put away the cell phone and began to check me for real in case someone decided to return. "Mrs. Catherine Edward called me an hour ago. He has everything ready. The private ambulance, the medical papers signed by 2 doctors certifying that you are in your right mind, and the tickets. Everything. The tickets. To the countryside. By bus. They leave tomorrow at 10 in the morning from the South Terminal. He says he already has his house ready to receive you." My heart beat faster. Tomorrow. Everything would be tomorrow. And the letter I asked. "I have it here," replied Lisa, taking a manila envelope out of her scrubs pocket. "I wrote it just as you dictated. 3 pages, with everything." I took the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was my full statement, the conversations I had heard, the exact dates, the names of the lawyer and everyone involved. We also included screenshots of the bank statements from my additional credit card, the one I had given Robert only for emergencies, and that he had used to spend $9,000 in 6 months. Meals at expensive restaurants, designer clothes, even a $2,000 television that now hung in his bedroom. The letter ended with specific instructions. The house was being transferred to an irrevocable trust that I would manage. When I died, it would be donated to a foundation for elderly women in vulnerable situations. Robert would inherit nothing. Tomorrow at 2 in the afternoon, I told Lisa when they come for their usual visit, "You hand them this letter." Not a minute before. "I need to have at least 6 hours of head start. Do not worry, ma'am. At 2 o'clock sharp. Not a second sooner." That night when I was alone in the room, I did not pretend to be unconscious. I sat up in bed for the first time in 5 days. My whole body hurt, but it was a pain that reminded me I was alive. I dialed Edward's number from Lisa's cell phone. "Catherine, get me out of here tomorrow, my love," I told him with a firm voice. "I cannot take it anymore. I do not want to keep pretending. I will be there at 6 in the morning. The ambulance, the papers, everything." And Catherine, "Yes, I should never have let you go 2 years ago. This time no one is going to separate us. I promise you." I hung up and lay back in bed, looking at the white ceiling of the hospital. In less than 12 hours, my life would change forever. For the first time in years, I was not afraid. I had hope. But before I could execute my escape, fate had prepared one last stab for me. One that almost made me change my mind. One that showed me with absolute clarity that the son I had raised no longer existed. That same night around 10, when the hospital was plunged into that heavy silence that only exists in the hallways of a place where people fight between life and death, Robert returned. He came alone. I heard his footsteps dragging down the hall, slow, tired. He entered the room and closed the door carefully as if he did not want to disturb anyone. He sat in the chair next to my bed, and for several minutes he said nothing. He just breathed. A heavy, irregular breathing as if he had been crying. I kept my eyes closed, my body motionless, but my heart beat so fast I feared he could hear it. "Mom," he whispered finally. His voice sounded broken, vulnerable, like when he was a child and had nightmares. I waited. I wanted to believe he was coming to ask for forgiveness, that he had reconsidered, that the good son, the one I knew, the one I had hugged crying when he graduated from college, still existed somewhere inside that 40-year-old man sitting by my bed. "I do not know if you hear me," he continued. "The doctors say probably not, that your brain is very damaged, but I need to tell you this anyway." He paused for a long time. I heard the sound of his hand rubbing his face. "I am tired, Mom. So tired. I am 40 years old and I have nothing that is really mine. The apartment you helped me buy I lost 3 years ago because I could not keep paying the mortgage. The credit cards are maxed out. I owe $25,000 that I have no way to pay. Vanessa pressures me every day. She tells me I am a failure, that her friend married a successful businessman while she stayed with a good-for-nothing who cannot even support her." His voice broke. "And she is right, Mom. I am a failure. I lost my job 1.5 years ago, not the one from 3 years ago. That one I got back, but I lost it again. And this time I did not resign, nor was I laid off. They fired me for unjustified absences, for being late, for low performance. They threw me out like trash." My heart shrank. I knew nothing of that. Nothing. I did not tell you because I was ashamed. I told you I was going to work every day, but in reality I spent my time in parks and cheap cafes, watching the hours go by until it was time to return home and pretend I had had a normal day. Vanessa found out 6 months ago, and instead of supporting me, she threatened to leave me if I did not get money. Money from anywhere. My son, my little boy, suffering in silence while I cooked in my kitchen knowing nothing. Then the idea occurred to us. He continued, and his voice changed. It became harder. "Your house, Mom. It is worth hundreds of thousands. Money that you do not need. You live alone in that huge house. You have a pension that you barely use. You do not travel. You do not treat yourself. You have no social life. You just exist. And we are drowning." I felt something inside me break. Vanessa said it would be easier if you were not here, and I refused at first. I swear, Mom. At first I refused, but then I started thinking about it, calculating it. You are 68 years old. Statistically, you have what left? 10 years, 15 at most. And in those 10 or 15 years, we are going to keep sinking into debt, into despair, into misery. He got up from the chair. I heard his steps approaching the window. And then you had the stroke. And the first thing I thought, God forgive me, the first thing I thought was, it is a sign. As if the universe were telling us it was the moment that your time had come and our opportunity. Tears began to roll down my cheeks, my eyes still closed. I could not hold them back. But now you are here in this bed, and I do not know what to think, because a part of me, the part that is still your son, wants you to wake up, wants to hug you and ask for forgiveness and tell you that we are going to find another solution. But the other part, the part that is desperate and scared and angry at life, he fell silent. A long, horrible silence. That part wants nature to take its course. My heart stopped. The doctor said there is a 60% probability that if you wake up, you will be left with permanent brain damage, that you will need constant care. Vanessa says it would be better for everyone, even for you, that you did not suffer like this. That if you do not wake up in the next few days, we should tell the doctors not to resuscitate you if your heart stops. He signed my death sentence. My own son had just signed my death sentence. I already signed the papers, Mom, he whispered. Yesterday, the do not resuscitate order the doctor asked me 3 times if I was sure, and I said yes. That you would not want to live like this. That you were a dignified woman who would prefer to die rather than be a burden. I could not breathe. I felt like I was drowning. "Forgive me," he said finally. "Forgive me for being so weak. Forgive me for not being the son you deserved. Forgive me for this." I felt his lips touch my forehead. A cold, mechanical, empty kiss. "I loved you, Mom." At some point, I loved you very much. And he left. I stayed there in the dark with tears soaking the pillow and my heart breaking into 1,000 pieces. For hours I could not move, I could not think, only feel that deep pain, that immense emptiness of understanding that the boy I had carried on my back, whom I had fed with my own sacrifice, whom I had protected from all evil, that boy no longer existed. In his place was a stranger, a desperate man, yes, a weak man too, but above all, a man capable of watching me die to save himself. Around 3 in the morning, when the pain became unbearable, I dialed Edward's number with trembling hands. "Catherine, what happened? Are you okay?" "No," I whispered with a broken voice. "I am not okay. But I need to get out of here tomorrow, Edward. I need to get out before it is too late. Everything is ready, my love. At 6 in the morning. "No," I interrupted him. "Earlier. At 5:30, please." "What happened?" "Catherine, you are scaring me." My son signed a do not resuscitate order. If my heart stops, the doctors are going to let me die. Edward, they are going to let me die. Silence on the other end. Then a deep breath. "I am going to be there at 5:30 sharp, and I swear to you by everything sacred that no one is going to touch you. No one." I hung up and curled up in that cold hospital bed. For the first time in my life, I understood what it meant to be completely alone. Not physically, but in the soul. I had lost my son long before that stroke. I had lost him little by little without realizing it, while he smiled at me and called me Mommy and let me cook for him on Sundays. I had lost him the day he chose Vanessa over me, the day he let her disrespect me in my own house, the day he allowed them to treat me like a burden, instead of like the woman who gave him everything. And now, in this dark room with the sound of machines marking every beat of my betrayed heart, I made a decision. I was no longer his mother. I no longer owed him anything. Not love, not loyalty, not forgiveness. Starting tomorrow, Catherine Sources was going to live for herself. For the first time in 68 years, she was going to choose herself. And that choice began with an escape. Lisa's alarm rang at 5 in the morning. Not that we needed it. Neither of us had really slept. She arrived at my room at 5:10, dressed in her uniform, but with a backpack over her shoulder. Her face showed the tension of what we were about to do. "Ready, Mrs. Catherine?" she whispered, locking the door. "Ready," I replied, although my voice trembled. Lisa took clothes out of her backpack: gray sweatpants, a hoodie, sneakers. Nothing flashy, nothing that would attract attention. "I need you to get dressed fast. Edward will arrive in 15 minutes. I got out of bed. My legs trembled at first after so many days without really using them. Lisa held me by the arm. Easy little by little. I got dressed with clumsy hands. Every movement was an effort, but adrenaline kept me focused. Lisa helped me put on the sneakers, gathered my hair in a ponytail, and put the hood up. "Ready now, it looks like you are going back home after visiting a relative." At 5:25, Lisa's cell phone vibrated. A message from Edward. "I am in the parking lot. White ambulance. Waiting." "It is time," said Lisa, taking my hand. "Remember the plan." "I remember." We left the room. The hallway was almost empty. Only a nurse at the station concentrated on her paperwork. Lisa greeted her naturally. "I am going to accompany Mrs. Garcia to the bathroom. I will be back in 5 minutes." The nurse raised her hand without even looking at us. She was used to seeing Lisa help patients. We walked toward the elevator. Every step felt eternal. I expected someone to stop us at any moment for an alarm to sound for Robert or Vanessa to appear. The elevator arrived. Empty. We entered. Lisa pressed the basement button. "The ambulance parking is in basement 2, she explained. "There is less surveillance there at this time." The doors closed. The elevator descended. My heart beat so fast I could hear it in my ears. When the doors opened, the cold air of the parking lot hit my face. It smelled of gasoline and disinfectant. There were 3 ambulances parked. One of them had the lights on. "That is the one," said Lisa, pointing. The back door of the ambulance opened. Edward jumped out, and seeing him after 2 years almost made me cry. He was wearing a denim jacket and his white hair perfectly combed. His eyes filled with tears when he saw me. "Catherine," he whispered, running toward me. He hugged me, and in that hug, all the fear, all the betrayal of the last few days exploded. I cried on his shoulder while he held me as if I were made of glass. "It is okay, my love. You are safe now. You are with me." "Excuse the interruption," said Lisa urgently, "but we need to move." "The shift changes in 20 minutes, and there will be more staff." Edward helped me get into the ambulance. Inside there was a stretcher prepared with clean sheets. The driver, a man of about 50 with a mustache, greeted us with a nod. "Ma'am, welcome. I am Mario, certified paramedic. Mr. Edward paid me $2,000 for this private transfer. We are going straight to a private clinic downtown where 2 doctors are going to certify your health status and your mental capacity. Everything legal, everything documented." I got on the stretcher, not because I needed it, but because it was part of the plan. If someone saw the ambulance leave, it had to look like a normal transfer. Lisa got in with me. She took a folder out of her backpack. "Here are all your medical documents from the hospital. Certified copies, your history, the stroke studies, everything. Also, here is the copy of the audio recording from yesterday when your daughter-in-law and the lawyer spoke in your room. I saved it on this USB drive." She handed me everything. Then she took out another envelope. "And this is the letter they are going to receive at 2 in the afternoon. I took it with trembling hands. 3 pages that contained my truth, my declaration, my liberation. "Lisa," I said with a broken voice, "how am I going to pay you for everything you have done for me?" She smiled and squeezed my hand. "Mrs. Catherine, my grandmother took care of me my whole childhood while my mom worked. She taught me to read, to cook. She took me to school. When I lost her because of an abusive son, I swore that if it was ever in my power to help someone in her situation, I would do it. You are giving me the opportunity to keep that promise." She leaned over and kissed my forehead. "Now go be happy and do not sacrifice yourself again for people who do not deserve you." She got out of the ambulance. Edward closed the back doors and got in front with Mario. The engine started, and just like that at 5:37 in the morning on Thursday, March 15th, I escaped from the hospital. I escaped from my son. I escaped from the death they had planned for me. The ambulance went through the still dark streets of the city. I lay on the stretcher looking at the ceiling, feeling every bump, every turn, every second that took me further away from that life. 40 minutes later, we arrived at a private clinic downtown. Small, discreet, but clean and professional. 2 doctors were waiting for me, Dr. Mendez, a neurologist, and Dr. Salazar, a psychiatrist. During the next 3 hours, they ran tests on me. Complete neurological evaluation, cognitive tests, psychological evaluation. I answered questions, solved puzzles, told my story. Mrs. Catherine said, "Dr. Mendez, finally, your recovery from the stroke is exceptional. There is no evidence of permanent brain damage. Your memory, reasoning, and cognitive capacities are intact. You are in full use of your mental faculties." He handed me a sealed and signed official document, a medical certificate declaring my mental competence and my ability to make decisions about my life and assets. Dr. Salazar added another similar document. Between the two, I had the legal protection I needed. Edward paid the doctor's fees, $1,500 in total money he had taken from his savings without thinking twice. Now he said, taking my hand, "Let us go home." Not my house in the suburbs. That was no longer my home. That was a prison I had just escaped from. We headed to the South Bus Terminal. Edward had bought 2 tickets to the countryside departure at 10 in the morning. First-class reclining seats, air conditioning. We arrived at the terminal at 9:15. We still had time. Edward took me to a restaurant inside the terminal. "You need to eat something, you look very thin." I ordered eggs with bacon and toast and a fresh coffee. It was the first real meal I had in almost 2 weeks. Every bite tasted like freedom. While we ate, Edward told me about his house in the country, about the garden with purple flowers his wife had planted, about the kind neighbors, about the market 2 blocks away where they sold the best homemade pies in the region. "You are going to love it, Catherine. It is quiet, it is safe, and no one is going to find you there." At 5 to 10, we boarded the bus. We sat together in the back. Edward put my head on his shoulder and covered me with a soft jacket. The bus started, and as we left the city, as I watched through the window, the streets I had traveled for 68 years, I thought about Robert. I thought about Vanessa. I thought about how at that precise moment they still believed I was unconscious in that hospital bed, not knowing their plan had crumbled. At 2 in the afternoon, when they arrived for their routine visit, Lisa would hand them the letter, and then they would understand. They would understand that the old lady they wanted to kill, the mother they left for dead, the woman they considered a burden, that woman had won. I fell asleep on Edward's shoulder, with the movement of the bus rocking me like a lullaby. And for the first time in weeks, I slept in peace, because finally, after so much time, I was going home to my true home. It was exactly 2:15 in the afternoon when Vanessa and Robert entered room 407 at the General Hospital. I know because Lisa told me later in great detail in a call she made to me that same night. According to her, Vanessa came dressed as if she were going to a party, pink satin blouse, tight white pants, heels. Robert came quiet dark circles under his eyes, wearing the same clothes as the day before. "And now," asked Vanessa, seeing the empty bed, "where is she?" Lisa was standing by the window with the manila envelope in her hands. "Mrs. Catherine Sources was discharged this morning at 5:30. The silence that followed was absolute. "What do you mean, discharged?" asked Robert with a trembling voice. "She was in a coma, the doctors said." "The doctors were wrong," interrupted Lisa with a firm voice. "Your mother woke up 5 days ago completely conscious, completely lucid, and decided to keep it a secret." Vanessa approached Lisa with clenched fists. "That is impossible. Who authorized the discharge? We are the family. No one can take her out without our consent. Your mother is a senior citizen with full use of her mental faculties. She does not need anyone's consent to leave. Here are the medical documents that certify it, signed by 2 independent specialists." Lisa handed them the envelope. Robert took it with trembling hands and opened it. Inside were the medical certificates, but also something else, something they did not expect. "My letter." Robert began to read aloud, his voice breaking with every word. "Robert and Vanessa, if you are reading this, it is because you already realized that I am not there, that I escaped. that I fooled you just as you planned to fool me. For 5 days I remained in that bed pretending to be unconscious while I listened to you plan my death. Yes, my death, because that is exactly what it was. A do not resuscitate order is a death sentence disguised as compassion. I heard every conversation, every plan, every word. Vanessa, I heard you say that as soon as the old hag died, you would sell my house for $800,000 to pay your debts and go to Miami. I heard you looking through my drawers searching for deeds. I heard you evaluating my belongings as if they were merchandise at a flea market. Robert, I heard you talking to the lawyer, Mr. Garrison, about declaring me incompetent. I heard you calculate how much his fees would cost $15,000 to steal from me what took me 40 years to build. I heard you cry, not for me, but for your debts. And I heard you sign an order to let me die if my heart failed. I also discovered other things, like the $9,000 you spent in 6 months with my additional credit card, the one I gave you only for emergencies. Here are the attached bank statements. Meals at restaurants where you spent $300 in a single night. Designer clothes, a $2,000 television. What was the emergency, son? Your ego, your vanity, your inability to say no to your wife. And worst of all, I heard your confession last night when you came alone and told me you were tired, that you were a failure, that I had already lived enough, and that it was your turn. Those words broke my heart in a way I never thought possible. Because I understood something I should have understood years ago. The son I raised, the good boy who loved his mother, that son died a long time ago. Maybe when he met Vanessa, maybe before, I do not know. But what I do know is this: you are no longer my responsibility. The house in the suburbs, the one you coveted so much, will never belong to you. This morning, with the help of a notary Edward hired, I transferred the property to an irrevocable trust. I am the only administrator while I live, and when I die, the house will be donated completely to the House of Hope Foundation, which supports elderly women in vulnerable situations. My bank accounts were closed. I opened new ones at a different bank with passwords you will never know. My pension of $1,200 will be deposited in my new account starting next month. The attached documents include audio recording of your conversation with the lawyer in my room, bank statements showing the fraudulent use of my credit card, medical certificates proving my full mental capacity, copy of the irrevocable trust, copy of the restraining order I filed this morning. Neither of you can approach me within 500 yards. If you do, you will go to jail. Robert, you were my entire world for 40 years. I gave you everything I had, and much of what I did not have. I worked until I destroyed my body so that you would have what I never had. And in return, you gave me betrayal. I do not expect you to understand the pain you caused me. I do not think you are capable of understanding it. But I want you to know this. I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I need peace. I need to close this chapter of my life and start a new one. But forgiving does not mean forgetting, and it definitely does not mean allowing. Starting today, you no longer have a mother. I no longer have a son. We are two strangers who once shared blood and a last name. Nothing more. Vanessa. I never had affection for you, but I respected you because you were my son's wife. Now I see you were exactly what my instinct told me from day one. A calculating, cold, and manipulative woman who saw in my son someone weak she could control. And you succeeded. You turned him into someone unrecognizable. I hope the $800,000 you expected to receive were worth it, because that was the price you put on my life, and that price you are never going to collect. Now you have two options. You can accept this situation with dignity and move on with your lives building something for yourselves, or you can try to look for me, harass me, or create legal problems. If you choose the second option, you should know that I have copies of all these documents with 3 different lawyers, one in the city, one in the countryside, and one in the state capital. If something happens to me, if I suffer an accident, if I die suspiciously, these documents will be delivered immediately to the authorities. I also recorded a full video explaining everything, which is deposited in a safety deposit box with specific instructions to open it if something happens to me. Do not look for me. Do not call me. I do not exist for you anymore. Live with the consequences of your decisions. Sincerely, Catherine's sources, a woman who finally learned to choose herself. According to Lisa, when Robert finished reading, he stood paralyzed. The letter fell from his hands to the floor. Vanessa picked it up and read it completely, her face changing color with every paragraph. "This is insane," she whispered finally. "This crazy old woman is going to ruin us." "That crazy old woman," said Lisa with an icy voice, "is the bravest woman I have ever known. And you two are the most despicable trash I have seen pass through this hospital, and I have seen many things." Robert slumped into the chair where he had been sitting the night before. He began to cry, not with loud sobs, but with a silent, defeated weeping. "I lost her," he murmured over and over. "I lost my mom." "No," Lisa corrected him. "Your mom lost you, a long time ago. She just realized it." Vanessa took out her cell phone and dialed a number. "Mr. Garrison, I need you to come urgently to the hospital. We have a situation." "What do you mean you cannot help us? Against who?" "Against us. But—" Her face turned white. "I understand. Thanks." She hung up and looked at Robert. "The lawyer says the letter is legally valid, that she can do whatever she wants with her property, and that if we try anything, we could end up in jail for asset fraud and elder abuse." "So what do we do?" asked Robert with a desperate voice. Vanessa put her cell phone in her bag and walked toward the door. "I already know what I'm going to do. I am leaving. I did not marry you to live in poverty, Robert. I married you because you promised me a comfortable life. And not only did you not deliver, but now you do not even have the inheritance you assured me would come." "Vanessa, please." "No. It is over. I'm going to pack my things and go to my cousin's in the West Coast. Good luck with your miserable life." And she left. She left Robert sitting there, surrounded by the pieces of his destroyed life. Lisa told me he stared at the letter on the floor for almost an hour. Then he picked it up, folded it carefully, and left the hospital walking like a zombie. That night, while I was in the countryside in Edward's house, drinking tea in the garden under the purple flowers, my phone rang. It was a number I did not know. I answered with caution. "Mom." It was Robert. His voice sounded destroyed. I said nothing. I just listened. "I know I do not deserve for you to listen to me. I know I have no right to call you. But I need you to know something. You were right. About everything. I am a failure, a coward, a bad son, and I am going to have to live the rest of my life knowing that the only person who truly loved me, I almost killed for money." Silence. Then a sob. "I do not ask for forgiveness because I know I do not deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I am sorry. I would give anything to turn back time and be different. Be better." He hung up. And I stayed there with the phone in my hand, looking at the stars above the countryside, feeling something strange in my chest. It was not forgiveness. Not yet. But maybe someday it could be peace. 3 months have passed since that morning I escaped from the hospital. 3 months that feel like 3 years. Like 3 different lives. Now I am sitting on the porch of Edward's house with a cup of hot chocolate in my hands and the afternoon sun bathing the garden. I can hear Edward in the kitchen humming an old country song while he prepares dinner. It smells of stew, of fresh bread of home. This small 2-bedroom house became my sanctuary. It has wooden walls, floors that creak softly when you walk, and large windows that let in light and air. The garden Edward's wife planted years ago is now full of life flowers herbs. I have added my own plants, basil, cilantro, a small cherry tomato bush. The first week was difficult. I could not sleep. Every noise startled me. Every time the phone rang, my heart raced, thinking it was Robert, that he was coming to look for me, that somehow he had found this address. But Edward was patient. He hugged me when I cried. He let me talk for hours about my pain, my guilt, my confusion. He never judged me, never said I told you so. A mother's love never dies completely. Catherine, he told me one night while we looked at the stars from this same porch. You can set limits, you can protect yourself, you can walk away, but that love is always going to be there like a scar that no longer hurts, but remembers. He was right. The second week, Lisa called me to tell me the latest news. Vanessa had left Robert just as she threatened. She went to the West Coast with her cousin, and according to rumors, she was already dating another man, an engineer with money. She did not waste time. Robert had to leave my house. Without my pension helping him without Vanessa's income, he could not pay the utilities. The electricity was cut off, then the water. The neighbors began to complain about the neglect. In the end, a judge ordered him to vacate the property for not being the legal owner. The last I heard was that he was living in a rented room in a rough part of town, working as a delivery driver for an app, earning barely $40 or $50 a day, pedaling a bicycle through the streets he once traveled by car. When Lisa told me that she waited for my reaction, I think she thought I would be happy that I would feel satisfaction for his suffering. But I felt none of that, only sadness. "Are you okay, Mrs. Catherine?" she asked me. "Yes, honey, I am okay. It is just that he is still my son, and although he is no longer part of my life, I cannot rejoice in his pain." "That makes you a better person than him," replied Lisa gently. After a month of being in the country, Edward proposed to me. It was a simple afternoon without great speeches. We were watering the plants together, when suddenly he knelt in front of me with his knees creaking from age and took a simple white gold ring out of his pocket. "Catherine's sources," he said, with eyes shining with emotion. "We already lost too much time. We already lived too many sadnesses. Marry me. Let me spend with you the time we have left. Be it much or little, but let it be together." I cried, of course I cried, but this time they were tears of pure happiness. Yes, I replied 1,000 times yes. We got married 2 weeks later at the local courthouse, a small, intimate ceremony. As witnesses were 2 of Edward's neighbors who became my friends, Mr. Stephen, a 75-year-old man who sells bread at the market, and Mrs. Ruth, a 70-year-old woman who makes the best homemade pies I have ever tasted in my life. And Lisa. She traveled from the city especially to be present. She was my maid of honor. I wore a simple ivory dress we bought at the market for $85. Edward put on his only gray suit, the same one he wore at his first wedding 48 years ago. It did not matter. It was the happiest day of my life. After the ceremony, we celebrated at the house with a special roast. I prepared with my own hands rice beans and a cake Mrs. Ruth made. We ate, laughed, danced to the sound of a live band Mr. Stephen hired as a gift. That night, lying next to Edward in our marriage bed, looking at the wooden beam ceiling, I asked him, "Do you think I am a bad person for having abandoned my son?" Edward took my hand in the dark. "You did not abandon your son, Catherine. Your son abandoned you first many years before that hospital. You just made the decision to stop being his life preserver when he was trying to drown you. But I am still his mother, and he is still your son. That is never going to change. But being a mother does not mean sacrificing yourself until you disappear. It means loving, yes, but it also means teaching. And sometimes the best lesson is letting people face the consequences of their decisions." He was right, as always. After 2 months of being in the country, I found a new purpose. Mrs. Ruth invited me to join a group of elderly women who met every Tuesday at the community center. The Silver Warriors, they called themselves. We were 12 women between 60 and 78 years old, all with similar stories. Widows, abandoned, betrayed, but survivors. We started making crafts to sell at the market. I taught how to make rag dolls using fabric scraps. Others taught embroidery, knitting, painting on wood. With what we earned, we helped elderly women in the community who were in difficult situations. But I also started giving traditional cooking classes, first in person in the community kitchen. Then with the help of Mrs. Ruth's granddaughter, who studies communication, we started recording videos. Catherine's Kitchen, we named the channel. We uploaded recipes for pies, stews, soups, pastries. I told the stories behind every dish, the secrets my mother taught me, the techniques I learned in my years selling breakfast sandwiches. The channel grew slow but steady. First 100 subscribers, then 1,000. Now we have 47,000 followers. It is not much compared to other channels, but for me, it is the whole world. Because every comment I read says things like, "My grandmother cooked like this. This recipe made me cry with nostalgia. Thank you for keeping our tradition alive." And some months we earn up to $800 from views and advertising, money that I add to my pension and that allows me to live with dignity without depending completely on Edward. 3 weeks ago, I received a message on Instagram. It was from a young woman, perhaps 30 years old. Mrs. Catherine, I do not know if you are going to read this, but I need to tell you that your channel saved my relationship with my grandmother. She is 72 years old, and after my grandfather died, she fell into a terrible depression. She did not want to cook. She did not want to go out. She did not want anything. One day I played one of your videos, and something in her look changed. Now we cook your recipes together every Sunday. And my grandmother smiled again. Thank you for giving me back my grandmother. I cried reading that message because I understood something. My life did not end when I escaped from that hospital. My life began. Yesterday, exactly 3 months after my escape, my phone rang. It was an unknown number from the city. I answered with my heart racing. Mom. Robert again. This time I did not hang up. I just waited. I know I should not call you. I know I have a restraining order. But I needed to tell you something. His voice sounded different, calmer, less desperate. I got a real job in a warehouse. It does not pay much, $700 every 2 weeks, but it is honest. I have a small but clean room. I am going to therapy. A psychologist from the health center is seeing me for free. And I am trying to be a better person. Silence. I am not calling to ask you for anything. I am not calling for you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that what you did, although it hurt me, although it destroyed me in that moment, was the right thing. It was the only way I was going to hit rock bottom, the only way I was going to wake up. He swallowed hard. I was a horrible son, a horrible human being, and I am going to spend the rest of my life trying to make up for that. Not with you, because I know you no longer want me in your life, but with the world. Being better, doing better. My voice came out trembling when I finally spoke. I am glad you are okay, Robert. Really. Are you okay, Mom? Are you happy? I looked around. The garden with its flowers. The house that was now my home. Edward in the kitchen preparing dinner. My new life quiet, full of purpose. Yes, son, I am happy. For the first time in many years, I am completely happy. I heard a relieved sigh on the other end. I am glad. You deserve it. You always deserved it. A long pause. Do you think that someday in the distant future we could talk again? Not like before. I know that was lost forever, but maybe. Like two people who respect each other, who wish each other the best. I thought about my response for several seconds. Maybe, Robert, someday when we have both healed, when you have shown, not with words but with actions, that you really changed, maybe then we can have a coffee and talk like two adults. Thanks, Mom. It is more than I deserve. Take care, son. You too, Mom. And I love you, although I no longer have the right to say it. I hung up and stared at the phone for a long time. Edward came out to the porch, sat next to me, and hugged me. Are you okay? Yes, I replied, and it was true. I am okay. Because I understood something important. Forgiving does not mean forgetting. It does not mean allowing them to hurt you again. It does not mean going back to who you were before. Forgiving means letting go of the weight. It means stopping carrying the poison of rage. It means choosing your own peace over the punishment of the other. Someday, maybe in 1, 2, or 5 years, I will be able to see Robert again. Maybe we can have that coffee. Maybe we can build a new relationship different with clear limits and mutual respect. Or maybe not. Maybe this is all we will have. Sporadic calls, brief conversations, a distant but real affection. And it is okay. Both options are okay. Because I no longer live waiting for my son to complete me. I no longer live defined by my role as a sacrificed mother. I no longer measure my worth by how much I can give until there is nothing left of me. Now I live for me, for Edward, for my friends in the group, for the thousands of people who watch my videos and find in them a little piece of home. I am 68 years old, and I finally learned the most important lesson of all. It is never too late to start over. It is never too late to choose yourself. It is never too late to say enough and build the life you deserve. Last night, while we were having dinner on the porch under the stars, Edward took my hand and said, "Do you know what is the most beautiful thing about all this, Catherine? That we both thought our lives were already over, that the best had already passed. And it turns out the most beautiful part was just beginning. He is right. This morning I woke up with the sun coming through the window, the singing of birds, and the smell of coffee Edward was preparing. I got up without rushing, put on my favorite cotton robe, and went out to the garden to water the plants. And while the water fell on the flowers, I thought about something my mother told me many years ago when I was just a girl. Honey flowers are like strong women. You can prune them, you can neglect them, you can leave them for dead. But if they have strong roots, they always bloom again. Always. I bloomed again. At 68 years old, after a stroke, after being betrayed by my own blood, after having to escape in an ambulance at dawn, I bloomed. And if I could do it, you can too. Because never, never is it too late to choose the life you deserve, to set limits, to say no, to walk away from whoever hurts you, even if it is your own family. Your life belongs to you. Your dignity belongs to you. Your peace belongs to you. And no one, absolutely no one, has the right to take it from you. Epilogue. Today is Saturday. Edward and I went to the market early, as we do every weekend. We bought tomatoes, avocados, fresh chilies. Mrs. Ruth saved us the best pies. Mr. Stephen gave us freshly baked bread. In the afternoon, I have a cooking class. We are going to make traditional stew. I have everything ready: the chocolate, the chilies, the spices. And this time, I am going to tell the story of my mother, how she taught me this recipe when I was just 10 years old. Tomorrow, Sunday, I will go to church. Not because I am particularly religious, but because I like the community. I like sitting among my friends, singing the hymns, feeling that I belong to something bigger than myself. And on Monday, we start the embroidery workshop with the Silver Warriors. We are going to make tablecloths to sell at the town fair next month. This is my life now. Simple, quiet, full of purpose and true love. And if I could go back to that moment in the hospital when I heard Vanessa plan my death and someone asked me, was it worth it? All this pain, all this betrayal, was it worth it? My answer would be yes, because that pain taught me something I would never have learned any other way. That love for others should never cost yourself love. That being a good person does not mean being a doormat. That you can love someone and still protect yourself from them. And that true wealth is not in what you possess, but in what you do not allow them to take from you. Your dignity, your peace, your right to be happy. No one can steal that from you, unless you allow it. I no longer allow it. And I hope you do not either, because life is too short to live it on your knees. If this story touched your heart, if it made you reflect on your own life and your own relationships, leave me a comment telling me where you are listening from. Like this video if you believe it is never too late to start over. And subscribe to this channel to keep listening to stories of brave women who dared to choose themselves. Because we all deserve to bloom, no matter the age, no matter the past. We all deserve our own spring, the end.